And we're live. Alafia, greetings, and Hotep. You've got Omega 7 on Omi's production studio. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope there's enough light in here. I'm going to turn some lights on to get it a little bit brighter in here. Maybe open up a few more blinds in here. Okay. That should get it a little bit lighter in here. So how is everyone doing today? I hope you're doing fine. And if it be inshallah, I hope each and every one of you are being blessed. And thank you so much for joining my channel. And this is a series of discussions on the journey towards Ifa initiation. And the topic is, can your journey in life prepare you for, or can the journey in your life substitute for your self-initiation? And if you have gone on a journey, a lot of us have had discussions about, is initiation appropriate and required? And for what type of priesthood? As you know, I talked to you the other day about Inyala Day, and that is a person that resides over a group of women to develop and train. Some of us are born here with experience due to our journey and due to the crones that have been in our lives. Some of us may have spent time with several older women in our families, which has given us an experience that can be actually compared to an initiation. And then there are some of us that go on the initiation voyage in sororities and fraternities. Some of us truly have been initiated far greater than any type of spiritual initiation can give us. And it takes the Baba Law to take a look at your life and to see what type of experiences you've had through the readings. And he could very well tell you whether or not you need to go on an initiation course or go on a journey. Sometimes the Baba Laws will send us on a journey that are equivalent or far greater than any initiation. Now, speaking personally from my experience and journey, I have been on several journeys and I have written about some of the journeys. And before I even went on a journey, it was foretold in a reading that I was going to take on a journey, and that this journey was supposed to be so great that it would take the place of an initiation. And just to be point blank, the journey that was foretold that I was to go and to be a class agent and to serve as a class agent for many women and to relieve many women from the stress of impartiality and discrimination. So that journey that I went on started out to be for 3 years, but it ended up lasting for actually 5 years, 5 long years. And when a person comes back from war, they're usually decorated and commemorated if they come back unwounded and come back in full stripes based on the fact that they have succumbed and gone through so much. Now, let me kind of break some things down. Initiation. There are many types of initiation that you can anticipate. And let's talk about the one that you're most familiar with, possibly, the initiation into sororities and fraternities. A number of us get initiated into these sororities and fraternities, and we don't even think about that there's a spiritual aspect to it. I don't know if you've heard the term the burning sands, but there is a process that various different organizations. Hold on, I'm gonna switch up here because I can't hear anything. It's kind of hard to hear anything and hear with the noise going on, so I apologize. It's a little bit brighter here. Okay, anyway, a number of young women find out when they decide to go to college that they want to be a part of Greek. And it isn't unnatural for a young woman to be a part of Greek. We all start off by saying we want to be an independent and we're going to remain GDI until the day we die. But then that gets changed at a point when they find out that most African Americans are turning over to accept the Greek. Now, what is involved in an initiation? There's a lot of commitment that you have to give, and you have to give up a lot of things in your life. And that initiation means you're pledging yourself to something. Just like if you were getting baptized, you are doing an openly, outwardly expression to demonstrate to people that you're making a change in your life. So, just as in the sorority, you are committing yourself to this organization to somewhat swear an oath to the organization that you'll be committed. And those things that you do will not be ordinary things that you would do for anybody else unless you have a sisterhood that you're committing yourself to. And not to mention which position you hold on the line. You have to hold the line down. And as you know, there's always a rock at the front end and there is a vice rock at the back end to hold the line down. And usually those two people take the greatest beating because they're more responsible for what the line does. And the rock usually takes the responsibility for when the line is not straight or when there's some inadequacy in the line. And then the vice rock picks up where the rock falls short. She's substitute. And the reason I know so much about this particular procedure, I was the vice rock. So in carrying a line, we know that there's great responsibilities that come with getting on that line. And everybody can't cross that line, and everybody can't endure what that line has to give it, as you most folk know. Now, we pledge in those organizations because we love the sisterhood or we love the brotherhood and we want to be a part of the brotherhood. And I can personally say that when we pledge, we have pledged half of the girls on the line were girls that we graduated with, and we were going to pledge to support one another because we all came from the same high school, the majority of us, and there were 18 people on that line, and maybe over a third of them graduated from the same high school. So we committed to ourselves. It didn't matter if we were committed to that sorority, but we were committed to ourselves because we were going to make a difference. And we had to take an oath and we had to be initiated. And at one point or another, our work would be finally done and we would have the initiation of the crossing of the line, crossing over into the actual sorority from being neophytes into being pure sorority sisters. Now, we had a lot of pleasure in that. We enjoyed ourselves and we enjoyed the dances and the fashion shows and the fundraisers. We enjoyed all of that. But there's still one thing that we had to remember, that there was an oath that we took to commit to. And we tried to live up to that oath no matter what. Now, you've been seeing lately a lot of girls getting out of sorority for whatever reason. When you pledge an oath, you know that there's things going to be involved that you consent to. And I don't want to get into that because I'm not getting into their personal life. We're talking about initiation. Now, let me transition over into the spiritual initiation for myself. When I first approached Adiemi, when he asked me to come with him to meet Chief Metahochi, I had no idea that I was going to a reading, and the reading was my reading. I guess he had already did a reading before, and Adiemi, also known as Shabazz, Ronald Shabazz, was his particular assistant, who actually brought me in to meet Chief Metahochi, who was also my teacher. Now, Chief Metahochi already did a reading on me. He already knew my life history, and he already knew the work I was doing in the community, and he knew that I had the ability to work with women and to work with them from all classes and walks of life and to assist them and aid them in their entrepreneurism business. He knew these things about me beforehand. That's why he asked me if I would be the Yalade. I had no idea what he was asking me to be. So I declined it at first, and I said, well, Chief Manhoshi, I don't even know about the organization. I have no knowledge of Ifa. I don't even know how to be a priestess. He said, but you already are initiated. You've been initiated by the way and the background of your life. You've already been initiated. You can be very helpful to us and assisting these girls and training these girls and helping us to initiate the women. So I was shocked that he wanted me to walk right into the Babalaw's place or the Inyalade's place to help him initiate the women. So I had the opportunity to go to Texas, there where he initiated, and work with the women there, and I was assisting him. I had no knowledge that this is what the role of the Inyalade would be, and that there would be no big, great initiation for me. He said, don't worry, you'll get your turn when you strike out on your journey to Europe. When you go to Germany, you will begin your journey in initiation, and you will be self-initiated. And he had written and sent the actual Ileke bees, knowing that I would be coming back home soon. Knowing the struggle and the war that I was going through overseas, he knew I had already been initiated and had gone much, much farther through things than any other woman could ever go through, because I was carrying a whole nation on my shoulder. While carrying the case as a class Asian, I had to go before courtrooms and juries after juries to testify on behalf of this particular class action case that started out in the class action and eventually came to the point where they decided to settle on an individual case. But nevertheless, I had been on a journey, and I had been chosen to do this work. And he did the reading and told me that I would be in a position to work with large sums of women and assisting and aiding them. So he had already foretold of this journey long before I ever decided to go. Because at first I said no, I wasn't going to go to Germany. I didn't want to go. But then he said, you must go. You must go because there's a great work that you have to do abroad. So I took the suggestion that he gave and went abroad. But I was being self-initiated the whole time I was there in Germany and had no idea, because I was confused as to why I was receiving my Ileke beads through the mail. And I was never asked to pay anything because my work had already been done. I had spent time in the initiation helping to prepare the women for the baths and cleaning up after the sacrificial lamb was slaughtered. I had spent time with him going on this particular initiation to go into the houses and to the Agun houses to assist these women in preparing for their initiation. I had forgot about all the work I had done. He said, did you think that you would have to go through another personal initiation? I've already read you, and I know who's on your head. Obatala and Yamenye, you have your mother and your father. So you have work to do with us. So I became an assistant to Chief Metahochi. And he knew my family and knew that I was committed in the ministry. He felt the same work that I had did for the ministry in the Christian ministry as an evangelist and as a missionary. He knew the work that I had did, and he felt that he was gaining an assistant. So therefore, why spend the time retraining me when I was already indulged in the Spirit? And not to mention, I had 6 grown sisters who were between 15 to 20 years older than me that raised me and that had their hands in my life. He was from Gary, Indiana, so he knew the history of my upbringing and the work that my sisters had done in my life. So I was self-initiated, and he used me as if I was working in the capacity of a Babalaw or as an Inyalade. So yes, you can be self-initiated, and yes, you can be given individual classes. I was giving classes with the group and I attended classes, but when it was time for us to go and initiate someone, he invited me right along as if I was already self-initiated. And I was, because of the work that I had put in. And if you have been called into this profession and you have a dedication to give your life for a cause, to be one of the Inyalades, to work as a healer, then you might also be a self-initiated person. Now, let me explain to you that your life background has to be completely fixed in spirituality. And you cannot think that you are going to bring your Christian ways into the denomination, because you first have to understand the philosophies are different. And one of the first things I asked him about was to clarify the devil. He said, "What do you mean, devil?" The Ifa organizations do not believe in a devil. There is no such thing as a devil. There are 400 plus 1 on the right side that are good, and there are 200 plus 1 on the left side that are evil. God allows and permits evil and good to exist simultaneously at the same time. But that doesn't mean that we believe in the devil. There is no devil. There is no little red devil running around with a tail and a pitchfork. And don't you ever believe it, because what we have gained from Christianity is falsehood. There is no such thing as the devil. And you're not fighting against the devil. You're fighting against your flesh, because in your flesh, in the enmity of your flesh, there's evil. And the flesh wants to take over the spirit. So the spirit and the flesh are always in opposition of each other. When he clarified that for me, things were, from then on, were different. I didn't view the devil the same way anymore. I said, "What devil? It's just your flesh acting up. Bring your flesh up under subjection, because the id has enmity with the ego, and you're constantly fighting against the spirit." So when I learned that from Chief Metahochi, I then knew that we had a chance to get out of this mess, because the devil wasn't bigger than God. And I kept saying to myself, why in the hell would God create a foe against himself? Why would God be fighting all his life against something that he created, when he can stomp it out at any time and be done with it? But then I was told that we're given a will. And when you're given a will, you are a free will agent. And because you are a free will agent, God wants you to decide. He wants you to decide. Because, see, the flesh is desperately wicked, and who could know it? And we have the capability of allowing the flesh to rear up. And it's this flesh that we're fighting with. You're not having any opposition with your wife or your husband. You're having opposition with your flesh. That's your flesh you're fighting with. And you must understand that as we go through initiation, we're bringing the flesh up under subjection. And we are taking control of the flesh. But let's get back to initiation. So what is so great about initiation is that you get your pots, and that you get your right hand of Ifa, and then you can brag about all these things, but you have no power. You have to have power to do readings. You have to be able to ingest, reflect, When someone comes to the Aegon with problems, you have to be able to see beyond a person's words and hear what they're not saying when they tell you about their trouble. You have to be able to say, oh no, that's not what you're trying to tell me. You're trying to tell me something else. And you have to be able to hear and clairvoyantly hear and be able to use your clairvoyant ability to see what this client is really saying to you. Now, you have to understand that people come to you with all kinds of problems. And sometimes they lie to you because they fear of telling you the truth because they're embarrassed. So you have to be able to see beyond what they're saying and say, just what is the problem here? Are you covering up for something you've done in the past? You got to be able to read into that situation. And no amount of classes can give you that. That's called mother wit. And most priests or Babalas can see it in their students in advance. And they work with those students to build them up faster because they need them as their assistant, just like an Inyala Day or just like a Babala, to do the work, because there's great work that has to be done. And when you're doing work in the spirit, you become tired. You become exhausted because people problems will drag you and drain you out of your own frequency. They are vipers and they come to steal your anointing, pointing. And when you are done with your work, you must close the door to the spirit so that you're no longer antagonized by that spirit and that spirit doesn't come to plague you. So good priests and priestess and in Yaladay, if they're going to do a reading, they know how to ground themselves and protect themselves so that they're not in the midst of being exhausted from the work that they do in spiritual work. Now, Chief Medahochi knew enough to know that I was a seasoned young woman who was ahead of my time because I had been mentored by 6 other crones who had a vested interest in me. So I was the sum total of my 6 sisters who were 15 to 20 years older than me. Now, isn't that something? He knew I had to have had some grounding in me if my mother had me at the age of 38 years old. Then I had to have had sisters' hands in my life that were crones, and he knew of the background of my family. So, being that I was self-initiated, I want you to understand that there was a lot more work that I had to go through because I had to step in as an assistant and I had to watch, pray, and learn and be able to produce and be able to assist. So being self-initiated doesn't mean you did less work. It doesn't mean that you were less prepared. It means that you were called to be a full-fledged assistant. Now, we get this phone that rings all the time, and we're going to leave it. Hello? Hello? I don't have one. Goodbye. They find the time to call when I'm in the middle of doing a presentation. Let me get back to my journey here. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about my journey. Some people may have not heard about the journey that I was on when I was compelled to go abroad and to take on a class action case and to be the class agent. Some of you might not know about that, but let me kind of fill you in a little bit. Don't mind my turban here. I feel that in laying a foundation to tell you more about what that was all about, it was perceived that this department would be brought out in the open because there had been so much suffering going on for military women as well as for the GS7 candidates who were working in the capacity of child care. And they were waiting for someone to come in and to vindicate them. And this was the opportunity that Chief Metahochi had spoke of, that I was going to go on a journey and that I would be used to be the class agent to unveil that case. That case took on life for about 5 years, and it was enduring, going in and out of courtrooms. And that began the process of my initiation in law, understanding how to bring briefs, understanding how to bring the interrogatories, and then being a pro se candidate myself who was presenting the case pro se until I could get additional help from the lawyers. But nevertheless, this journey was it was a situation that was on my shoulders. It was sort of like me taking on the world by myself. And boy, was that a journey. And keeping close contact with Chief Metahochi, when I did return back to the States, he said, yes, you've been on a journey and you have completed your journey well, and you have been self-initiated. And I didn't know what that meant at first. And he said, you're going to go on an initiation with us, and we will meet you in Dallas, Texas, where we were going there to initiate some young women. And right out of, off the plane, going to Dallas and being a part of that, it made me feel so good because I could put my Lake ABs on and participate and assist in the process of the initiation of these young girls. And even though I kept saying, don't I need to have my initiation letter or something? And I was told, no, you've been fully initiated and you have gone through the hardest part of initiation. So yes, your journey in your life can substitute and be used as self-initiation. And if you're asked to be an Inyala Day, you can do readings. And you not have to be a Babalaw. And Inyala Day can read the E Kings and can throw the divining chains and can do readings. And I was taught that initially. That's what he heavily focused on, was me knowing how to read the Odus and read the poetry, and then go and cast the E Kings and read them and do the markings. He spent valuable time with me learning how to do the markings so that I could go and read the Odus and see exactly what the readings showed up as. And he spent a lot of time throwing the E Kings, telling me about the nature of my father on my head and the nature of my mother on my head, and giving me valuable material to read so that I can get an understanding of who these people were. Who were these Orishas? And why were they so valuable? And why did I have to sit with them and get to learn about them? What was this all about? And I soon realized that he was getting me read up as quickly as he could by giving me books and material, and not to mention by inviting me to various different bimbes to understand how the spirit would mount one of the ebos and would mount one of the young Iwas, rather, and how the spirit would come in to the bimbe and speak through one of us. And I had a chance to see all this stuff firsthand. So it wasn't something he presented to me in a book. I learned it firsthand from being present there. So it meant more to me, and it had more substance to it than when some of you neophytes would go and read a book and learn about it. I was actually at the event to see it. So I had more exposure. And not to mention that Adiimi, Ronald Shabazz, was also our teacher and spent a lot of time teaching us and inviting people into his ebal, into his igun, and having them be a part of the session. So a group of us were treated a little bit differently, where we were mandated to work with the actual initiations and preparing the goat and getting things all ready, and also participate. And I had an opportunity after that to participate in another ritual where the bloodshed was done with the chickens. And I had to witness this and assist with the chickens and shown how the chicken's neck would be reined off through putting your foot on the chicken's neck and pulling it up. I says, oh my God, I hope I don't ever have to do this. They said, it's a part of your responsibility. And these are the things that you will have to do too, and taking a bit of the blood and putting it on your big toe and on your forehead. So I became accustomed to understand what it meant to have a sacrifice with blood sacrifice, and under what circumstance would you have to use blood sacrifice? If there's a bigger sin that needs to be covered, then maybe it would require a blood sacrifice. And not human beings, because that was not in the picture, but primarily understanding that fowls and goats and birds and chickens were the things that they looked at. Everything did not require a bloodshed sacrifice. And that was one of the things that I withdrew from, and that I was kind of, withdrawn from. But after I was explained to about, for the remission of sin, that there must be a sacrifice of blood. And then some greater sins require the sacrifice of blood. Whereas some may only require a plate of food or a grain of blade of grass, or some may require you to leave an offering at the lake. Others may require a greater sacrifice, and that could be of sacrificing an animal or fowl. Now, let me get on with some of the other things. Not only the bembes that I talked to you about, but also being a part of the chanting of the Odus. And there are 256 Odus, and I think I said 250 last time, but there are 256 Odus. And they start off with the 16 Odus that we learn, and we learn to master the Odus, and these are various different stories and poetry. And Chief Metahoshi wanted me to learn the Odus, and I began to chant some of the Odus and memorize them. But it's a process, and that's a process for any Babalaw or for any Inyana Day. Now, some people don't realize this, but Iyanla Vanzant was the editor of one of the books that was called Oladula Mare. She edited the book, and she is also an Ifa priestess who's gone through training as well. And maybe that's why she's able to fix people's lives, because Ifa will mend our broken hearts. And Ifa has the capability of assisting us so that we know how to live a life and how to assist us in every aspect. Now, here's one of the things that I think that I've been called to do, to take my medical background and helping to use the DRGs to help regulate the types of diagnosis that people are coming in for, and assigning a number with them so that they can be equated to a fee. Because a lot of people think that going to the Babalaws or to the priestess to get help, they think that they are just doing this for the help. But it states right in the reading that even children don't see Babalaw without a fee. That you just can't walk in there and get a reading and get help without a fee. So they've got to structure that just like a professional. Because once it's structured and they decide to approve non-drug therapy treatments, then they're going to have to come up with a system to be able to get reimbursed so that it becomes a real business and not just something you're playing around with. You've got real doctors who come in to places like, they come into the resorts where they can get readings, and they come and get their reading because they don't believe in allopathic medicine any farther than they can throw it, and they want somebody that's going to cure them. And a lot of these Babalaws have been known for their ability to cure people, and have been known for their ability to really aid and find the cause of the real disease and get to the heart of it. But one thing you must understand is that most of the priestesses that are coming into the priesthood immediately, they have no skill and no talent. Because a book can't teach you how to be a priestess. It has to be something in your heart. I was a spiritualist long before I came into Ifa. I was healing through modalities of energy healing, and there is something that is also called where you actually receive an abrupt healing, a spontaneous healing. And I have had 2 spontaneous healings in my life. And the doctor said I was a miraculous case. I won't go into those healings, but I will say that through energy healing, you can have a miraculous, spontaneous healing. And because I had this gift, I knew that I should be in some particular faith that would allow me to exercise these gifts. And that's why I knew I had to exit out of Christianity, because they looked at those gifts as being taboo. And they never really acknowledged those gifts for an African American. They equated them with witchcraft, taboo, or fetish. And then we had to covet our gifts. And people would covet your gifts and put your gifts in hiding and isolate you from other groups. And sometimes you have to understand things that people don't understand. They will try to character assassinate. They will try to destroy. But we have to understand that our gifts don't come with repentance, and those who are secretly seeking these babalaws and priestess in the night where nobody can see them when they travel to get these readings, they know the truth, and they know that these readings are real, and they know that sometimes when we give them the reading, it really depicts it. For example, I did a reading on Bill Cosby, to find out what the situation was. And it compelled him to look at evil and good and to use his own judgment. And it also talked about him not believing in people so much to the point where he gave them more credit than what they were worth. They even said he was in darkness and he was in trouble. But there was an omen that came out of his reading, and it was a good omen. So therefore, something positive is about to happen with William Bob Bill Cosby Jr. Something positive is about to happen with him because he had a positive omen. And that's not because he just straightened up overnight. Bill has sent up some timber. He sent some timber up. He's done some good things that God has vowed to repay him back for. He will be pardoned. He's going to get pardoned. Now, I can't tell you when, but there's going to be an overturn of that case, and he's going to be pardoned. That's what the Spirit said to me. And I have to go by the Spirit. I know that he doesn't have a lot of time on his hand because of his age, but there is a great possibility he may beat the clock. Let's pray for him that he beats the band and beats the clock, and that there is an overturn of this case, that he can get out while he's still healthy. Now, we don't know why a lot of things are done, but the earth turned because Bill is one of God's finest. The earth turned and the ancestors became engulfed with anger. Because what Bill wanted for us was something that we didn't even know how to want for ourselves. And that was to be displayed on these televisions and videos as being Gentile people and being well-versed, cultured people. That's something we didn't want for our own self. But Bill wanted us to have that, to be decent and in order, to display ourselves like women that are virtuous women on the screen. He didn't want us women on the screen exposing ourselves, and he didn't want our black men carrying themselves around like throwaway. He desired that, and that's something that God wanted. And he went after it, and he worked for God to try to make sure the black men get depicted in their right view. So he sent some timber up to God. God owes him something. And he hasn't forgotten about Bill. and he will go to his rescue. And he has went to his rescue already. And in a moment, and in the twinkling of an eye, we're going to see a victory come over Bill Cosby's situation. You can't just close the door on somebody like that unless they've been very wicked and they finally get what's due them. Bill doesn't deserve that. That is not Bill's MO. Trust me. There wasn't a rape involved. There was lies told and an opportunity for more lies to come in. And what broke the camel's back was there was no aid on behalf of the black race to cry out to the mountains to cover and shelter Bill. There was no crying out from any black organization to support Bill. Why could you create a group called Me Too in a matter of less than a year and make it so damn powerful that it can pull great men down? Who was behind that Me Too organization? It couldn't have just been measly women. It had to be some other structured organization who was behind the whole concept. Bill couldn't fight up against an institution that he couldn't see coming, but they were slowly building and developing themselves to an organization that was powerful than the Constitution, because his Constitution didn't stand up to withstand him. The Constitution even let him down. The Constitution didn't even prevail in that courtroom to give him a chance to be able to stand behind the Constitution. The Constitution was even against him in that courtroom. So that goes to show you, they tried to fix those cards against him. But the omen said it's a good omen, and no amount of fixing will make it stick. And because that omen is going to come to pass, Bill is going to get released through technical issues that weren't brought out in that courtroom. Many of them, such as not having an interrogatory set of questions answered and tampering with material objects that could have been useful in that courtroom, which were tampered with beforehand. So there's a lot of things that people are busy pulling out of the record right now as we speak. It's not over. And the majority of the black lawyers are going to press it. They're going to press it because they see it could happen to them and to their clients. And they're going to stop it before it gets a chance to grow. Here's what I have proposed. I have proposed that every Babalaw, every Inyalande, every priest and priestess come together. We need to talk. We need to talk because we are a council. We are a council. And in the African race, they consult the council for instructions. Has anybody consulted us as the council? Has anybody came to us? We need to set it up so that nothing else goes down in the judicial system without them consulting the council of elders. We are the council of elders. I'm 65 years old, and I'm one of the councils of elders. And I have a legal background and a degree from an ABA school that says that I have an ABA license from Roosevelt University in paralegal school. So yes, we need to bring the council together. We need to have a meeting. We need to talk about the council from here on out. Every case where a black man is killed in the street will go through the council. Every case that goes in the courtroom where a black person is concerned will go to the council. The council will reside, not some foolish jury who stands up and says, isn't it time to go home yet? Let's get this over with. We cannot let clowns and buffoons stand in the jury on behalf of our brothers and sisters who have a potential of losing their life. We cannot allow that to happen again. If we say we have background and being magicians and being deviant, reading oracles and being able to use energy healing, then let's pull our strengths together. Because it's time that we change this judicial system. It's time that we come forward and say, lawyers, if you're black lawyers, come and be a part of this council. We must put our heads together because there's too many foul things happening in the courtroom and people running around parading and grabbing their private parts and groaning and moaning. It's not acceptable. And we cannot let this go down in history. We cannot. We must formalize ourselves as a nation of people in a tribe. Come and join the tribe. Be a part of the tribe because we are tribal people. Yes, we are tribal people. And we have the answer to solutions because we know how to look into the future and we get a glimpse of what is behind the truth. We can look into water and find the answer. If we, being evil, can give good gifts to our children, how much more can the Heavenly Father give to us who ask? We're asking the ancestors to be present with us today. We're asking the ancestors to walk with us today, to speak to us today. We're calling Toussaint Louverture here. We're calling Bookman Dadi. We're calling Jean-Jacques Dessalines. We're calling them here today to reside over a council to help us come together to make a decision that we will not let these things happen again. What good is it for us to be initiates? Initiates to what? We're initiates to what the ancestors give us the ashe for. Give us the ashe, ancestors, to believe in ourselves once again. There was nothing that went down on that slave camp that those initiates and that those not only initiating the Bible laws and the Inyala days did not reside over, did not ride on, did not go and have meetings on. And then when they had meetings, they structured themselves to set up a plan. Where is our plan? And how come we can call ourselves gifted and talented people that can reside over readings and find solutions for various different people, but we cannot come together as a council to be ready when the time comes, to be ready to speak on things that are inappropriate, things that they defile our black race, things that negate who we are as a black people, things that make us look small and insignificant. We must stand up to these things. We must bring our legal heads together. We must bring our talents. And those that are paralegals out there, we can do pro bono work. We're not looking for a fee. We want to help our family and our loved ones. And we come together under pro bono to help those that go in the courtroom. I don't care if they got money. If they don't have money, we come to the rescue. We must put our bandits on and we must show ourselves strong. That man stood in the courtroom without anyone to stand behind him. And then the lawyers speak in private about what went wrong. Stand up and exert yourself and talk about what went wrong. And let the world know you know that that was not a proper setting for him to get justice and equality. I'm ashamed with all the degrees we got and credentials we got, and we holler about how initiated we are. How initiated are you if you can't come together when there is a crisis in the community? Well, there's a crisis now, and it's time to band ourselves together. Nobody has to wait till 2019 to tell us that we must come out and parade and celebrate of coming out of slavery for over 430 years. What difference does it make if we're still in slavery now? We must come out of slavery and we must come out strong. We must come out fighting and stepping on some heads and let them know this kind of thing won't go down anymore because we're not going to have it. We call out to the ancestors. They're ashamed of us. They turn their backs on us and they look with a jaundiced eye saying, why weren't you there when it was time for you to stand up and use your magic and use your gifts? And that's what it amounts to. Because see, they don't go in the courtroom unless they get a reading from one of their wickets, unless they go to one of their people to get the outcome. They're well connected and don't think they're not. But yet, We haven't been able to come to grips with accepting our own stuff. We're still talking about voodoo. I don't want nothing to do with voodoo. Voodoo may have to take you out of the courtroom and free you one day. But you don't want nothing to do with the rituals that may prepare you and protect you when you go in the courtroom. Because these courtrooms are rigged. They are rigged. Even with the jury, they're rigged. And you could see that by the jury they had. There was only 2 women in the jury that were black. There weren't any black men. So you can't get justice in a courtroom. You can't get vindication. But we can come together with our intelligence, with our ability. Excuse me. We can come together and we can be ready next time. And we can fall out one by one and be prepared. Do you not know that the Black Panthers served a great purpose in not only feeding the children and getting them to school and protecting them, but they had other layers of protection in the community. We don't have any layers of protection in the community nowadays. No one's not safe anymore. There is no legal protection that will come and vindicate any of us. And we're talking about the hood. What good is the damn hood if you haven't structured and organized yourself? Get the hood ready so that the hood's people that know the streets can give us the pulse of the people. But if we don't have a plan and we're not structured, things have been going down too frequently. And we are just laying on our backs and we are not even taking offense to it. Well, somebody ought to take offense to what is happening in the streets to our black young men. And not to mention now to our seniors and our elders. If we let our elders go down like that, they can come to the community and take anyone out. And it's not going to happen on my watch. So that's why I say, quit talking about you initiated to this and initiated to that. Be self-initiated and be a real hero. Who cares if you initiated or not? Because you're not doing anything with your gifts. And your gifts come without repentance. So take your gifts and use your legal ability. Those of you who have backgrounds and training in initiation, it's time to come together now and group ourselves together for what our next mission is going to be when this thing happens again. But you just can't get people ready who are just sitting back and not getting on the defense. We are always ready to act after something happens. You cannot let them put you on the defense. You must put them on the offense. And you must run them up a tree. Because when you go in these courtrooms, they're doing nothing but running people up trees and down in rabbit holes, and they're not getting to the point of things. How is it that this man has a relationship with this many women and he has a wife at home? It ain't possible. There's no way she would allow that kind of stuff to go on. Over the years, he could have had many of them as relationship, but they were not relationship where he was in the bed with them. A lot of them were lying, and they know they were lying, but yet they went on with that masquerade and they got paid. That's what it was about. It was about a payday. And every dime that they stole from Bill, they're going to have to give it back. Because their children will never live off of his proceeds while his children go hungry. That's the name of the game. They will let ours go hungry while they rob from us and steal from us and take our pensions and tell us that they don't have to give them to them. I'd be damned if they don't. God will come after every one of them and make them return the money. So we lay up and say it's nothing we can do. They can do this. They can't do anything to you that God don't permit. And if God hasn't permitted, it ain't so. I'm talking about initiation. I've been through something. I initiated myself clear across the water to help my people, to go over there to help 8 women so that they could be vindicated. Don't tell me about no damn initiation when I've been baptized in the waters of initiation. So when you go with this crazy nonsense about, well, I got my pot and I got this, then come and step forward and show what legal ability you got so you can help somebody for real. It ain't about getting paid for doing no reading. It ain't about nobody putting no money in your bank account. God will repay you for the work you do in the community. Has nothing to do with you setting up your business so you can become a big time reader. So now people have to spend big sums of money to come see you. No, they don't. You give your gift to the community and give it freely. I've never charged for a reading, never. And I've helped many people that needed insight in their life. But we've got to organize, and we've got to take these lawyers and put them together, and we got to find these conscious people that want to be a part of this group and start talking about what are we going to do when something happens like this again. How are we going to delegate? How are we going to initiate? And what are the plans? What are the plans? What are the plans? Don't take much to make some plans, and don't take that much time to sit down and put them together. But I'm tired of speaking to these people, and we have no solution. And every room you go to, they're crying out, and then they're coming against their own people. And then they have the audacity to say that Bill didn't come to our community and leave no money and drop a dime, and now he needs us. Then you go help him. It's always this tit for tat stuff, and we always coming behind each other talking about how we're not going to help each other. Well, there goes you if you don't help somebody. And if you worried about him coming to the hood, hell, you need to come out of the hood. And the hood ain't in you, okay? You ain't got to stay there to uphold the hood. You got to come out and do better. Because, see, these red lines where they keep you where you're a fool if you think you're supposed to stay there. You're supposed to migrate out of those areas into having the quality of life. And Bill sought that quality of life, and he wanted it for us too, and he displayed that. And don't go telling me you don't know no black that live like that. Hell, there's a lot of blacks that live like that. I used to live like that. And I knew how to help other people get what I had. I wasn't boasting about what I had. I was showing other people how to get what I had. And we got to make a change around here. We got to make it real quick and real fast. Because things are getting bad and worse as we speak, and we're watching it happen before our eyes. And we got these stupid Me Too movements that are standing up like institutions, and they just got here. We are the institution. They don't know a time when we weren't here. We've always been here. So how are we acting like the newcomer on the scene? We've been here before. Our ancestors have been in every aspect of the continent you can think of. They don't know a place where we haven't been. We are old and ancient people. Why are we acting like some Johnny coming lately, some new people? We've been here before. And when you going to rise up and act like it? Because we got some issues. We got some real issues. And that's not Bill's issue, it's our issue. It's a reflection of what's going on in our own black community. It has nothing to do with Bill. Bill was just a mere example of what could happen to the whole black community. So we got to ride on this. Believe it or not, we got to ride on this. It's no sleeping on this. You got to sit down and have a discussion on this. And no two ways about it. That's right, I'm fire and I'm a leader. But see, you either put up or shut up. And when it came for my initiation to go abroad, I accepted it. And I carried the burden. And I carried it for 5 years by myself. And didn't plead with those other 8 women, come on, get on board. They went on home because they was afraid they was up against the institution. But we fight institutions every day. And I fought. And in the end, I prevailed. Because they found them guilty and they made an offering. But they reneged on their offering. But they put it on the table. But I nevertheless won that war. And we've got to be ready to get into some wars and make our face ugly and stay the course like the watchman on the wall. Don't break camp. Don't break camp. We cannot break camp on this one. We got to look at ourselves and say that Bill is there because of all of us. And Bill is there because we didn't put up a fight. And Bill is there because we didn't go back to the council and say, hey, something's wrong with that jury. You got to get that jury out of here. Hey, you got to take this case and retry it. We didn't stand up and say those things, but we whispered behind closed doors about what we thought when it was too late. But you're going to get a chance again, so it's time to organize. And I hope everyone, to the sound of my voice, that hears this tape on initiation, know that they've been initiated by Omi. And initiation is nothing but the fire, that you're going through the fire, and we're going to have to go through the fire. And we have to be initiated, each and every one of us. And it doesn't call for the Bible laws coming in here to initiate you. It's your life experience that initiates you. And what you've gone through and what you're going to have to go through. That's what makes you a pure priest or priestess. Has nothing to do with all of the candles you have lit and all of the water you pouring in your libations, or all of the water you pouring in your 7 or 9 glasses to set your altar up. It has nothing to do with that. But go to your altars. Go to your altars and call on your ancestors, Eli. Call on your ancestors. Call on them today and ask them, what must you do? Call on them and ask them, can they lend you their ashe? Because you're going to need it to be strong for this caravan. You're going to need it for this initiation. So don't go telling me about all your initiation that you've had and how many right hands of ephod you have and how many pots you got and how much of this you are. Can you heal? Can you change time? Can you use your magic to uproot something and recreate and believe in the things that you can't see? The things that be not as though they were. Do you have the power and the ashe to go to the graveyard and call on those ancestors in the graveyard and ask them to pull themselves up and fight this war with us? Do you have the ability to walk into the graveyard and call those ancestors like Bookman Dadi did? He said he would change the course of time overnight. Leonard Jeffries did when he stood there and the people looked around him and saw ancestors everywhere. And when I went to the courtroom, they asked me, who are the people standing outside? I said, what do you mean? I said, ain't nothing but my ancestors. And they backed off of me. I know what I'm talking about. And we got to call on the ancestors, Eli. Ain't no two ways about it. That's the only way you're going to get over the greenhouse. And this can't keep happening to us as a people. And it must end. It must end. Get your initiation together. Sharpen your skills. Your initiation ain't finished yet. You still got work to do. And if you're going to be self-initiated, you got to be in this number 2. And you got to show yourself strong. I don't care if you have any legal skills or not. Come and get with the program because God is going to show you what to do. We need voices and we need commitment and we need organization. And don't you forget it. I'd like to bid you farewell and say thank you for listening. And please don't forget to subscribe down below. Down below, subscribe and become a friend. And not only a friend, go on Facebook and be a follower. And I'd like to see you during our next segment on E5. Will mend our broken hearts. Oh, Dabo and Baba Boo to you, y'all. Peace.